Welcome to the Thriving Farmer Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kilpatrick. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and celebrate sustainable farming. We believe that you can build a profitable, sustainable farm that gives you true farm freedom. Join us as we talk to farmers, innovators, educators, and entrepreneurs to glean their top takeaways in business and life. Hey, Thriving Farmers, Michael Kilpatrick here with yet another episode of the Thriving Farmer Podcast. And we appreciate you listening to every single episode here. Today is a fun one, talking with Curly over at Curly's Ags. Actually, what's your last name, Curly?
So Curly's not a real name, but just Curly's what everyone calls me.
Okay. All right. We're just going to leave it at that then. You're not some sort of, you're not some sort of like, wanted criminal running from the law. So you've changed your name.
No, it's a very Australian tradition that everyone gets a nickname. And most Australians you'll meet, they don't go by their real name. It's just not a done thing. Yes.
No, I know a fair number of Aussies, and it's they're a lot of fun, and they interesting quirks like this where you go by just Curly. All right. Yeah. So your background is tools. You've done a lot of tool development over the number of years. You've done some cool the broad forker was pretty cool when that came out, that you did improved paper pot. You've done a whole host of things. Your latest is this, what do you exactly call it? Because it's kind of a tractor, but it's kind of a tool carrier. What's kind of like the name for it?
Yeah, so I call it Handy. As you see, it's on the thing. And the idea come out, like when I started the concept, I don't know if you're going to talk about this more later on as to how I got to the concept, but I sort of just wanted, like, employment in Australia is really hard to get good people to work, for a decent price, particularly in farming. So I sort of just wanted something that's going to help you on the farm. It's like, it's not a tractor, so it's not just for pulling stuff, and it's not really like it's not like just a powerhouse. It's sort of like a third person, I suppose you could say. So I just wanted something that's going to be handy around the farm, and it just worked out that, hands, E and E for electric, it just worked out like that. So we just call it Handy, farm hand or something, I suppose you could categorize it as.
Yeah, and it does a wide range of things, and we can get to that a little bit further as we go. Let's talk a little bit though now about, like, how did you get into the whole ag world?
Yeah, sure. So we 6 years ago, we decided we were going to buy our first property. So we purchased the property we're on right now at Rosevale in Queensland, Australia, and it was 10-acre property. We're from a Christian background, Mike, and a big thing for us is we understand, from how we perceive the world through our Christian perspective, that things aren't probably going to get a lot better in the world, And this was 6 years ago. I mean, a lot of people with coronavirus now have sort of come to a similar reckoning. Yeah. And we basically wanted to not necessarily preppers per se, like guns and stuff, but we just wanted to have our own food security, self-sustaining, be off the grid, that sort of thing. So we brought this block of land where we are now, the 10 acres, and first thing obviously we did was build a house, and at the same time, actually, before we built the house, we started our garden, our farm / garden. At that time, it was just a garden, and we just thought, let's have a go at being self-sustaining. My grandfather was a market gardener back when it was a done thing. I mean, a lot of people's grandparents were market gardeners because that's how society happened. And I never really had any experience with it. You just dabbled around at home in our small property we had. And I said, let's have a go. So I started farming here, and I figured, so I currently at that time had another business in construction. And I was like, it takes me a full week to grow enough food for our own family to sustain itself. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is just silly. And like from our trades in construction, we have a tool for every job. Like, if you're putting screws in, you got a screw gun. You got 5 varieties of screw guns for 5 varieties of screws, and each one does its own job super efficiently, and we can do work these days in days, which would have taken months for our, grandparents were able to do building houses or whatever.
Yeah, so the impact driver is literally like the tool that changed my life.
Yeah, well, it's a magical tool.
Yes,
and that's exactly what I mean. Like, Mike, you got like all these advancements in construction, and I get into agriculture. You know, I'm starting to like, we're trying to grow for ourselves, so we need a minimum quantity. We need, you know, sustainability. We need ongoing planning, and all this stuff. And I'm like, there's nothing out there. You know, it's just, I'm like,
Yeah.
I've got a bad back from construction all these years. And like, what's going to happen? Like, you know, I started Googling around what's going on. And just as it happens, it was about that time when Curtis Stone made that video on the paper pot grow, like showing the, you know, the paper pot planter, and transplanting
Yeah.
cuts were a killer. It was a killer for us on our farm. Like, weed management wasn't a big thing for us back then because we did drip irrigation and we got really dry seasons here. So basically not a lot of weeds come up here. So that wasn't an issue, but transplanting for me, I'm like, this is just so bad. So I saw that video and that just, it hooked me pretty well. And yeah, next thing there was no one in Australia selling them at that stage. So I contacted, I'm not sure who it was. I contacted someone and said, you know, can we buy them in Australia? Like, yeah, we're shipping from America. And I'm like, and it come out to be like $5,000 or something to get one in Australia. It's ridiculous. So I went to Japan, brought one up to Japanese, and I got it back here. And I did some planning, and we got really heavy clays. We got really, really heavy clay here, which is great for the dry climate we have, so it retains the moisture. But it's just, the planter it was just rough. It was bad planning. It was a little bit, you know, just, it was uneven. Like, it's not perfect soil like what you often see in videos, you know. So I said to the Japanese, can we get some modifications for maybe a harsher soil? Like, nah, not possible. Like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
And basically I had no interest in getting into it, Mike. Like I had a successful business in construction, you know, life was good. I was pretty comfortable. And there was just no one wanted to innovate, nobody wanted to change. There was limited movement. So I said, okay, I'll do it myself. It doesn't look that complicated, you know. I have a background in aircraft engineering, so, you know, I've done a little bit of, you know, mechanical stuff before, I suppose. Obviously done a lot in construction, so I you know, had a basic idea on how stuff works. And we started on the paper pot planter, as you well probably know, that we used to be called Paper Pot Planter Australia, because that was our innovation in tools. And as we opened that up, we said, okay, but what about paper pot planters for a large scale agriculture? Like, you know, they're still hand transplanting, again, like I said, construction, if you automate it for sure, like, you know. And so we drove down that road for a while, but then from there, you know, obviously we, as people say to us, you know, what about this and what about that, we sort of filtered through the suggestions and diversified, you know.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about what were some of the innovations that you went through with the paper pot planter? Because I know obviously you said that was the first one you kind of started messing with, that you modified it for the heavy clay. I mean, obviously we don't have heavy clay, but I'm always interested to hear what kind of things you had to work on.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. So the main, it's funny, you know, I look back now, you know, from making the handy, which is, you know, it's a really complex tool compared to the paper pot planter. You know, you basically just got a bit of steel dragging across the ground. And you know, literally we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on that. And I know you look back and you say, well, what did we spend it on? That's a good question. There's a lot of prototypes that I still haven't brought to light, which I may do in the future. But our main first things was that we did a variable depth. So with this big clay, you know, big clods of clay, you know, you may be talking, you know, 100 mil or 50 mil, which is like, you know, 2 to 4 inches in clay sizes, which is like the maximum. Maybe let's say 2 inch, you know, clods of clay. If you can't necessarily fill it in nicely, I figured if you drop it lower, when you start watering the sort of, or you get a bit of rain or whatever, the clay will eventually go back around it, you know. So we did a variable depth. So we made ours to start with a lot deeper, and then you could change the depth of it. So you just get them lower and get a bit more out the sun, sort of thing. And then other thing we had a lot with, because we try to do a bit with cover crops and stuff. So you often have trash in your soil, and so that spike nose, would always just jam up with trash, and you'd be always cleaning it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we made the boat nose, which is exactly like a boat nose. So instead of it just catching it, it just pushes it underneath it and just keeps gliding through.
Yeah,
So
because it's more of a hook nose now. And so if you change it, change it to a boat nose, so it just slide right underneath.
yeah, exactly right. So that were the main two innovations that we brought onto our our CP1 Pro. That's what we call it now, onto our planters. But a lot of the other innovations that we really spent a lot of time and money on, like I said, we still haven't brought to light yet.
Gotcha. Very cool. Very cool. So let's talk about, so as you started to ramp that up, you see you came from a construction background. So now you've had to, build a brand new shop, bring in new tools. I've seen some of the tools you're working on. And the other cool thing is you're 100% on solar electricity. And you're running those big tools. Do you have to have a big array? Do you just have a huge battery pack? How does that work with the bigger loads?
Yeah, so look, we're blessed here, Mike, in Queensland. They call it, the government self-styles itself as a sunshine state.
Okay.
And the reason for that is, we've got 95% sunny days in Queensland where we are. So we do have a fairly big solar array. It's true. We've got 20 kilowatts of solar power on the roof, which solar, I don't know in America how it is, but I know in Australia we've got massive government incentives to get solar. So they pay basically 50% of the cost. Like, for example, I just got that 20 kilowatt array put on it, and it was $10,000 supplied and installed with a 15 kilowatt three-phase inverter. So
wow. Yep.
It's heavily incentivized here in Australia, solar.
Yes, that is heavily incentivized.
Yeah, and then from there, obviously, like I said, I got that three-phase Fronius inverter, and then I've got another system of inverters, which is a standalone, because we're not even hooked up to the grid. So it's like, when I say 100%, it's not that we just, we sort of use 100% offset, like carbon emissions offset and stuff. It's literally what we get out of the sky is what we got, and if we don't get it, we don't got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got 3 Victron 10 kilowatt inverters with a Quattro 10 kilowatt, and they essentially run a three-phase, so each box runs its own phase and they communicate.
Okay.
And then so they work as a grid and they feed back to the Fronius, or the Fronius feed back to them. They sort of talk between each other. So we can produce of three-phase. We're producing 32 kilowatts peak output of three-phase, which is, it's a lot of power. Like it's power to burn. And then obviously the other thing is the batteries, so we've got a fair few batteries. Look, Mike, it's like this. I don't, like, because we're incentivized so heavily, it's a no-brainer for me. Even if I lived in the city, to go solar, it's just so efficient. And we would have paid off our solar system probably a year or two ago. And that's before we even got the laser cutter. So for me, I think it's just, and obviously the environmental impacts, stuff like that. I think it's actually great.
Yeah. So basics in the US, and I'm just looking up here some random website. As of July 2021, they say a 20K system would cost around $55,000 US.
Unbelievable. And that's just for the power, the panels and the inverters.
Yes. Or $40,000 after whatever remaining solar tax credits are still there.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And so like even Ohio legislature passed a law that wouldn't allow energy companies to give kickbacks if you bought, let's say, like a Nest thermostat to try to make your house more efficient.
Huh.
That just blows my mind.
That is incredible.
Yeah. But I don't know if the power companies, push people so they use more power. I don't know. I mean, that just drives me nuts. But But yeah, that's a huge discount. That's amazing. I mean, it's amazing that you've got that there, because I'm sure otherwise it's challenging to run those kind of big equipment, because you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Well, we're only an hour from Brisbane, which is like, it's 2.5 million inhabitants. Like, you can get anything you need to get from manufacturing, you can get in Brisbane, sort of thing. So we're not really that far. We are far, but we're sort of in like a pocket. So there's no true roads to go anywhere. So we are completely 100% rural. But we're only an hour to Brisbane. And, Mike, I did it a little bit as well. Obviously, our self-sustainability and all that sort of stuff. But I did a little bit as well, like everything we're doing, sort of trying to pioneer the way. Because a lot of people say to me, "No, solar's just a gimmick." And I'm like, no, solar works. And I regularly have either clients of ours or, friends or people, interested in this sort of stuff. I take them through the workshop and I show them, how I set it up. And I actually installed the solar system, not the solar panels. I actually did install the first solar panels and inverter myself, but all the wiring, all that, I did it myself. It's fairly simple.
Yeah.
It's a fairly simple setup, and it's literally, it's sort of, it's today's technology. You know, it's just, it needs someone to sort of drive it and be exemplary of, this is my workshop. This is how it works. If you want, you can come and have a look. Do it at your own place.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was one of the things, like my mentors, Paul and Sandy, they set their zone up, and they said a huge part was of the labor. And so they were able to cut the labor massively by doing some of the stuff themselves.
Sure.
So, there is a huge aspect of the labor. And right now, I'm sure the labor on top of that's even higher. So,
yeah. Yep.
Cool. Yeah. Electric is the future. My sister and future brother-in-law actually stopped by last couple of days, and he has a Tesla, and he was charging it here, and we kind of like going through like all the understanding, and he said, yeah, that whole time it was charging, it only used $1 worth of electricity. And that blew my mind. Yeah, blew my mind that they're going to travel 360 miles or 320 miles, something like that, with just literally a couple dollars worth of electricity.
Yeah, and the fascinating thing, like, the thing about electricity is, if you got a fireplace, and I know in America you guys use heaps of fireplace. We got a fireplace in our place here for winter. We only use it, 2 months a year, but we've got a air conditioning, like a reverse cycle air conditioning. I'd rather use air conditioning than the fireplace, and the simple reason is, the sun produces the power. So we as a whole Earth, we run on sun power. We're all solar power, basically.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as the trees absorb the sun, and they turn it into hydrocarbons, in their wood and their mass, and then you burn it, you release it. So essentially, the tree is a battery. Whereas I literally, from today, I charge up the batteries. Tonight I'll discharge the batteries, and tomorrow they'll charge up again. It's just, you shorten the cycle so much, and it's just so efficient.
Exactly. That's a really interesting way to look at it. I never thought about it that way. Yeah, absolutely. So when you built your handy, you did go electric with that completely. Obviously there's some massive advantages. Talk to us a little bit about kind of like the thoughts and the engineering in that.
Yeah. So when I designed the handy, it started from a really, really raw concept. So we were developing new tools. So the first and the last of our last tools we developed was the Curly's Tracker 2, the automatic broad fork. And we had to essentially say, okay, this is a great tool, but we have to get a powerhouse for it. So we need something to put it on. So we made it so you can hook onto a BCS, and also you can put it on the 3-point linkage of your tractor. And we did that. And the ones we sold a couple of, a few in America, to be honest with you. I really don't like BCSs. I had 2, I've sold 1 already. I just feel that they're sort of like, they're awkward. They're just awkward to move around the farm. They're low. I know you guys in America put a lot of big wheels on them and stuff, which would definitely make them better, but they're just sort of like, they haven't got the traction. They're sort of, I don't know. I've really never got it.
To be honest, I don't even own one.
No.
We
you know
have,
what I mean then.
Yeah, no, we have a 4-wheel drive tractor. We have an old Super C, which is a 2-wheel drive. And then we have a Goldoni, which is basically the oversized big brother grandfather of a BCS.
Okay.
Now there's like 2 tasks on the farm, which I really wish I had a BCS for. Clearing out some crops. It's nice to have a little tiny flail mower that you can get in small tunnels. The other thing is making beds. So we bed up our hoop house in our tunnel, our big greenhouse, every fall for our winter beds. And it's nice to have that, so you don't have to hand do it. But I mean, I can do a whole hoop house in 20 minutes by hand. I don't need anything. And I'm not whipping the soil like a BCS would anyway. So again, for some farms, they're great, but I agree with you. They're not the bee's knees when it comes to running a farm.
Yeah, well, it's just, I don't mean that they're bad. I just find that they're awkward to use, and they've got no clearance, in and out clearance and stuff like that. And we often get hung up on, on when we're doing trials with our broad fork on different farm stuff, farms on slopes and stuff. They just didn't have it there. So I said, we had some new tools in the making, which you can see we've actually brought out for the the handy, and I was like, we wanted to we want to make essentially a full circle tool that you can use for your full scale market gardening turnover. So you've got one tool that does a whole lot, so you don't need a tractor with a bucket on the front to do your bed, to move your soil around the place. You don't need a BCS for that little bit of stuff. Like you don't need another, a Massey to do your mid-mount tool configuration. We wanted one tool to do the whole lot. So I set up with a really, really broad scope of what I wanted to do. I wanted to be ultra lift, so I wanted a 3-dimensional tool. So your BCS and stuff like that, you can only pull stuff, and power stuff. That's great, and that's good. But I want to be able to lift stuff, and I wanted to be able to lift a considerable amount of weight because harvesting for me with a bad back, it's a killer. And then if you're using it, so we got a John Deere 3320 with a bucket on the front, a mid-mount mower, and the 3-point linkers in the back, obviously. And I absolutely love that tractor, but it's no good for market gardening. It's good for keeping the grass down and stuff like that, and whatever, but it's no good for market gardening. So I wanted something to go over the crops without damaging them, so you can harvest and put it straight on there, have a platform. And that really main application was the first thing that really drove the whole overall concept of it. So I know it's come out now. If you look at it, you say, okay, this looks like a bobcat or a dingo digger, or I'm not sure. You guys got dingo diggers over there?
Yeah. I know what I know what they're like. Yeah.
It looks like one of them, but it's just missing the guts out of it. That was not our intention. We started with I actually saw a drawing of when we started developing it, a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, this looks pretty well exactly the same as what it is now, but completely different. It's the same form, but it's got all the extra bits and pieces that actually make it work. So that's what we set off with, Mike. From then we really engaged a lot of time to focus on making it two things: simple. We want to make it simple so that and I've actually heard this a fair bit on the comments around the place lately with electric, is a lot of it these big die casting machines that Elon Musk is putting in their Teslas, effectively to bring the pricing down. So they're saving heaps of parts and then just make it in one part and just cast it. But how do you repair that? How do you go to a shop and say, let's repair it? He claims it can be welded. There's people saying you can't weld cast. I mean, there's a whole debate there. And I don't want to get into that.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, a lot of people don't like the fact that you're not allowed to repair your own vehicles. So being able to repair your own vehicle is one of the big things. So we made it fairly well modular. So if a motor blows, you just call us up, Curly. This motor's blown. Just send you a new motor. You don't have to rebuild a motor, whatever. They're electric motors, so in comparison to a diesel motor or a petrol motor, they're really cheap. The frames and stuff. So we wanted to be modular. We wanted to be a simple but efficient machine, so that it can handle farm life. So you can give it a bit of a flogging, like the main chassis made out of 8mm mild steel, so that they're like, you can flog them with a hammer if you want. It's literally, they're borderline bulletproof. Then the next biggest thing we've really focused on, and this is something. So obviously around the traps, I do my research and stuff. I heard that BCS tried to make a electric version of their BCS 3 or 4 years ago. And even in my wife's reading James' book, The Market Gardener. I've never actually taken the time to read the whole thing, but I've got snippets of it. And he, in that book, I think it was 2013, it was put out, he said that there should be an electric BCS coming out within the next couple of years. We're at 21 and it's still an electric BCS. And I think the reason for that, Mike, just from my research, is because of the efficiencies and the losses in the drivetrains. So if you go to, let's say, Tesla, for example, they've got no gearbox. They've got no clutch. The motors drive directly to the wheels. If you look at the Rivian, they've got a motor for each wheel, the Rivian pickup truck. So the whole secret with electric is you're completely changing your paradigm of design. So you don't design, and I think this is why Tesla has taken off so well, because a lot of these other car worlds, let's speak 2 years ago, you had big companies like Toyota saying that electric was a joke, or Volkswagen said 2 years ago that they'll never make an electric car, and then now they are, by the end of 2029 or 30, they're going to have 100% electric vehicles or something. So
Yeah.
the secret is Tesla brought a whole new concept to it, and they said, okay, we've got a new paradigm, let's work with it. Whereas, and I think this is the exact same thing that's happening in the ag world. And so because essentially we're a startup, we don't have deals with motor manufacturers or anything like that. We redesigned it, and we want a really short drivetrain. We basically want electric motor to implement or electric motor to wheel, and then everything powers through cables. And essentially, we've been able to shed a lot of weight. We haven't got that diesel engine. We haven't got that big heavy gearbox. We haven't got that chassis to hold the whole thing, and we've been able to put the power exactly where we want it. So I don't know how much time you spent looking at our machine, but we've got the motors driving a reduction worm drive gearbox straight to the wheels. Like there's, the worm drive gearbox has got like an efficiency of 98% or something. So we've got no losses there. And then for our implements, we've got each implement comes with its own motor. So instead of having one motor,
and trying to run hydraulic lines or mechanical lines or all that stuff, you're just going straight to the thing, which is way more efficient.
Exactly right. And that's when, and this is from my understanding why BCS actually never released it, was because their battery life was 15 minutes. And who wants it 15 minutes?
Reed Alloway up in Canada has done it. I'm trying to look at the thread here. I'm actually looking at his thing. Batteries are modular. Yeah, I don't have a final takeaway from him on how long the motor ran. But he put in a Sempex motor, an AMD DD0-4002. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'll tag you in the comment.
Yeah, no, I have seen his, and he's done a really good job. He just started a new group, do it yourself.
Oh yeah, the electric. Yes, we should probably mention that. Yeah,
and we've been on there having a little bit of fun. I love encouraging other guys to have a bit of fun, because that's essentially what we're doing at the end of the day, Mike. We're just we're not in it to make money. Well, I mean, obviously, if you don't make money, you'll shut up sooner or later. But that's not, that's not our sole purpose, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Sole purpose is, innovation and as you said, have fun and make it easier for farmers. Because I mean, even since I've been now farming 17 years. I mean, when I first started, the tools we had were so different than we have today. So it blows my mind, the kind of innovations that have come around. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, all right. So the electric, now how much can the Handy lift?
Yeah. So it's 350 kilos approximately.
Okay.
It can lift more, but its weight, it itself weighs under 250 kilos. I don't know what that is in pounds or stone or any of that, but yeah. So if you put too much weight on it, and this is again comes to the design, we wanted it to lift more weight. So let's just say you're harvesting something heavy like watermelons or whatever, it'll lift it and move and no issue. There's no issues with it at all. But if you have it out the front like a bucket, like you put on your tractor or anything, you got to have that counterbalance. And the further out it is, the further back you have the counterbalance. So you're looking at a 600 kilo machine then, and then that weight's got to come from somewhere. So that's extra cost. It bogs easier in the ground. Blah blah. More mass in your walkways. It goes on and on and on, and the scale keeps growing, and you finish with another John Deere 3320. That weighs 2.5 tons.
Exactly. Yeah. So 350 kilograms is 770 pounds. 700 kilograms is right around 1,500 pounds.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is you have to keep the weight in the center, and that's why it's empty in the middle. So with our harvesting basket, you'll see that the platform comes right back into the middle. So, effectively, the further you go away from the front of the machine, the less weight, it'll lift before it topples over, sort of thing. We have weights and like counterweights and stuff you can put on it, but then, it limits other movements and stuff.
Yeah. And that's not the sole purpose. If you need that all day, every day, then you buy a Bobcat or something.
Or a forklift or something.
Yeah. But for the most 90% of small farms, this will be more than they need to be for moving. If like most pallets come in at 1 ton, so you pop off the top, 3 levels of of bags, pick up the rest with this and move it around. That's kind of how we've done, because we have our tractor does about 1,500 pounds of weight
Right.
capacity. So that's exactly
Sure.
what we do. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Very cool.
Hey, Thriving Farmers, where are you on your Thriving Farmer journey? So if you go to our website, growingfarmers.com, you can click on the assessment button, and that will take you to a form, ask you a few different questions, and that will help you figure out where you are on the 5-stage Thriving Farmer journey. And what that does then is kicks you a customized PDF that gives you resources to know exactly what to focus on next in your business to go to the next level. So go to growingfarmers.com and click on the assessment.
So let's talk about, like, you know, another thing you guys do over there is you do a lot of tweaking. So people bring you ideas and stuff, you know, kind of, what does that look like? You know, what kinds of things have you been able to tweak and improve?
Yeah. So as far as tweaking goes, we don't really per se do tweaking of existing. We have done minimal jobs of sort of just, you know, farming up the road, sort of want something done to the machine. We do that, but that's not really what we're in about. We sort of, yeah, more so what we do is, like, if guys bring us ideas, say, okay, we need this tool for this job, we will then, you know, we'll then take that on and analyze the situation, see if there's a need, you know, see if there's a possibility to improve, and then move from there. There's two main tools which have come about because of that. That's why we have it on our webpage, that we, you know, encourage consumer feedback to give us that feedback, essentially. And so the Elia 3000, which is I suppose it's a tilther. It's the same as a tilther. We're fairly cautious, Mike, to not step on other people's toes. We don't want to make any enemies in the business per se. It wouldn't limit me making enemies to develop a new tool. You know, for me, my purpose is to help farmers. If I'm going to step on someone's toes to make a new tool that's going to help people because they're not doing it, I'll do it. But I don't want to unnecessarily do it. So, you know, I didn't want to step on Johnny's toes with the tilther. And so I'd held off for years, and that's why we made the Power Harrow first, because, you know, the Eco Harrow, because it was, you know, battery powered soil preparation. But we had a farmer, we're doing a show with the Broadfork, the automatic Broadfork Pillows Cracker 2 down in New South Wales. And one of the guys said to me, he goes, I have one of them drills with the auger on it, you know, for like just drilling holes. You see them, like the Chinese ones that they advertise everywhere. And he's like, I threw it the other day and it landed on the ground, and something hit the trigger, and the auger just started up and just spat all the soil out the one end, and it just left like a trench where it was. And he goes, I need something like that to form my beds. He said, like, you know, like the size of a tilther, but it's got to form the beds. So it sort of, you know, just opens the beds up and leaves them neat. So you just pass it over and again. So I said, yeah, radio. And we proceeded with it. You know, we did a couple more shows down there and stuff. And I was thinking about the whole time. I was like, you know, if we did a double reverse helix on the tilther, essentially, it would work. So I was thinking about modifying the tilther, but, you know, it's, you know, they've had a lot of problem with the back of them cracking, the back flaps and stuff cracking. So I was like, we need to make a new platform. So that's essentially how the Elia 3000 started. It was actually initially designed as a bed forming tool. And then I said, okay, you got a horizontal rotating axis. Anything you put on that horizontal rotating axis, if you change the tool, it will change what it does. So, you know, we just chucked a, you know, tilting attachment, a rotor attachment on it. And then we chucked a flower mowing attachment on it, essentially. So you've got, you know, it's only one in the world where you got a bed former, a rotary hoe, and a flower mower all in the one tool. There's one little clip on the bottom. You just unclip the clip, push the implement off, and you just change it over. So it's, you know, it's a 1 minute exercise. So it's not a massive deal. And that come from that farmer just suggesting to us, you know, that innovation. And it's obviously come a long way since that first prototype, but, you know, it's a staple thing we sell quite a few of now. You know, we've got heaps of them floating around America and Australia. They're a really good tool. The other tool that we've innovated a lot from demand is the flame weeder. So my wife's been hounding me for years to make a flame weeder. She's like, no, they're great. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but there's heaps of guys that make them. I don't want to, you know, do anything. And I was like, there's options on the market. And then the issue is you're either buying a flame weeder to flame a bed, like, you know, I know Farmer's Friend make one, and there's a couple other guys that make
Mhm.
the ones for weeding the bed. Or you've got like your handheld weed one sort of thing, you know, just you know, just like one burner that you just burn whatever.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Connor Crickmore sort of did a hybrid, which is sort of like, you know, a handheld weed burner with like a little shroud over that sort of focuses. And I'm like, okay, they're all sort of okay. But they're not really versatile. They're sort of like one job, one tool, that's it. So 2 years ago, we bought the company here in Australia, Aussie Flame Weeders, which was a guy, you know, just a young guy,
Mhm.
just having a go. Really nice guy. He was. I mean, he is. Michael, his name is actually. And he when we bought the business off him, he actually approached us and said, you know, I really want to get out of it. Can you take it? And I said, yeah, sure. But when we got that, I sort of had to sort of start there, and I was like, okay, this is the moment. So we made the incinerator multi, which is like, and we get heaps of feedback like this is a bit, it looks awkward and it looks, you know, unstable and stuff. But, you know, by and large, the feedback, it took us a long time to get it evenly balanced, evenly weighted. But now
Mhm.
that same tool, you can either do your pathways, like it's literally a 5-second movement. You just put the tip on the ground and twist it, and then you'll do your pathways, and then you put your tip on the ground and twist it again, and you can do your beds, you know, or fence lines or whatever, you know. So it's a really simple tool that gives that versatility. And we'd had heaps of farmers just asking us about something a bit more
Man.
versatile when it comes to flame weeding,
Yes.
you know. So that's almost, you know, it's gone up to be almost the number one seller now, you know. It's really,
I'm looking
yeah,
at
it's
that
really
right
cool.
now, and for some reason, I haven't seen that before. What?
Haven't you? Yeah, no.
No,
It's
this is, yeah, I need one of these because
yeah,
there's so many problems this solves.
yeah.
Um,
And like I
yeah,
said, a lot of people say it looks awkward, but I'm
yeah,
not joking. Yeah, like Eric from Steadfast Farm, he's got one. JM40's got one.
yeah, yeah. I
Uh,
just talked to Eric a couple nights ago.
did he? Yeah. Okay. So he's
Yeah,
got that one, and he said he loves it. He said just a little bit, you know, if he's just doing bed, just doing bed. And the problem is with Eric is he only does beds. He doesn't do anything else. But
yeah,
he would prefer Jonathan's one because it's just made for just doing beds. But you know, he said definitely if I had to do, you know, footpaths or anything else, he said it's
yeah.
he really likes it.
Yeah,
So
it would
yeah.
be. Yeah, we do pathways once in a while,
Mm.
and that would be convenient to be able to just zip in there real quick and hit that with it. So
Sure.
yeah, cool. Yeah, because I'm looking at some of the other stuff you guys got on here. You got the weed wand, and that's just more of a just a handheld version, right?
Correct. It's just, you know, that is a massive sell in Australia because there's just no one in Australia making flame weeders. We're
Yeah.
the only ones in Australia making flame weeders. So it's probably the market's a little bit different from here to there, sort of thing.
Yeah. Now the other thing that needs to be made is, well, Jonathan's kind of done it because he now offers pre-punched landscape fabric, but
Sure.
something that can punch those because we're using like different templates and stuff. But the problem is templates really don't do a great job unless you have them just right. So I like the thing, you know, they make one of those things that kind of like puts on the end of a torch and you heat up, but having
Yeah.
one that would do like 3 or 4 at a time would make it so much faster and so much easier.
Yeah, so I actually already started drawing up one that adapts to our incinerator
Okay.
mini. So I don't know if you've
Yeah.
seen it. If you look on our website, there's one they call incinerator mini. So
Okay.
it's the same as incinerator multi. So it's a full width flame head. And I don't know, you probably haven't noticed, but the incinerator multi, that's another one of the things where we've gone back to the drawing board and said, let's redesign this with technology in view. So
Yeah.
it's the world's most powerful flame weeder on that size, and that's it's got 20 jets in it. So if you look at Jonathan, I think he's got 5 jets or 7 jets depending on it. That one there's a 750 watt and it's got 20 jets on it. So literally you're doing a walking pace and you're just killing everything in your path. Like it burns.
Cooking it.
Yeah, exactly right. So the incinerator mini is the exact same head, but it rolls. So we've actually got a die that you put on there, and the flame just goes across top and it heats up the cones as they roll around. And then as that goes down to the plastic, it just cuts the plastic out. So I've got that on a drawing board, but I haven't released it yet. The issue is, Michael, you know, my head just does circles all day around the place, and I've sort of had to get to the stage now, particularly with the handy, you know, where I say, okay, let's focus on getting this tool, and this tool done, get it to market, and we'll leave this for, you know, whenever it gets around or whatever. So
Yeah.
that one's sort of just put on the back burner for the moment,
Yeah. Well, sometimes you can try to solve 12 problems and you
Mm.
never get any of them solved. You just need to
Correct.
focus on one, get it to market, focus on another one, and then go from there. So
Yeah, correct.
yeah. That's cool. Yeah. I mean, the thing was we've done, we did the bubbler, we did the dry your greens, and again, to us, those were cool things, and we kind of moved on. I mean, there's so much potential there that we could have taken those to so much different levels. A couple of people did. I mean, they made some steel basket bits for the inside, so you made it a lot easier. And yeah, I mean, I've just got so many things going on. I just haven't continued diving in and taking those to the furthest place they could go.
Yeah, you got to pick your battles, don't you?
Yeah. And I really like farming. So, I mean, my idea of a good day is outside working in the soil with the team. Yes, I love puttering in the shop somewhat, but and that will probably change here after we get this farm, back up to where it needs to be, so I can step out of in the business and start working back on the business. So the first year has all been about, processes, team, and we're starting to really make headway now. I mean, we have a team that I only have to work. Well, I'm out there for big projects and stuff, but it pretty much runs itself now with the harvesting, the packaging, the management of the retail sales channels. Those are really running real smoothly now. So it's good. But it's all about the right people.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the problem we're having now is we're scaling up. So back to the handy, we're probably in our last 2 weeks of R&D for this year's model and tools and stuff. And I don't know if you want to go down, touch on sort of the tools we got for the handy.
Let's dive in that.
Yeah, okay. So right now for the handy, so for our 2020 model, the handy, we've got Eco Harrow, which is a power harrow essentially. We've sort of we've named our own tools just so they're ours, and they're all sort of work with our system anyway. So we've got Eco Harrow, which is a power harrow, the Elia 750, which is exact same as Elia 3000, but it's just 750 wide, which is your standard bed. I think you guys call that
a 30-inch bed.
30-inch bed, correct. Flower mower, forks, bucket, auger, seeder, paper pot planter, cultivators, bed former, compost spreader, carry-over flame weeder, and lay-down harvester. So, that's what you can buy with the 2020 model. Yes.
That's extensive. Now, can you stack paper pots so that you can, because one of the things with the paper pot that I don't like, because we do cultivation with 4-wheeled tractors, and obviously we don't need to continue, but even if you're doing, let's say, the handy and want to cultivate, you want to make sure those paper pot rows are exactly the distance apart you want them. Like for a 30-inch bed, it's typically 8 inches apart. So if you could stack, those 4-row paper pots across the back, obviously it's expensive to set up, and you have to make sure your paper pots are set up correctly. But or maybe it's just 2, so you could do 2 rows at once, then flip around and come back and do 2 other rows. I think that might be the way you need to go with that.
So so Mike, we've actually got have you been following us online on social media, Instagram and stuff lately?
I'm not a huge Instagrammer, so I may have missed half your posts.
Okay. So we've just been releasing, by the time this audio is released, it'll be public knowledge, but I suppose you get the sneak peek. We've been releasing just photos of stuff we're laser cutting and saying, guess what it is. And that's actually this week's, we're going to release a video of it working this week. So it's actually, we're planning to put 5 rows on a bed.
Okay.
And to do that, we've essentially turned the paper pot trays on their side so that you can stack them, I think the minimum spacing between rows is 100 mil, which is 4 inches.
Okay.
Apart, so it's a really really tight, and this is actually a little bit of that throw off of what I said to you before. Some of the things we haven't released yet. There's quite a few more coming. It's just time again, Mike. But for us, it's fundamental for the paper pots. The paper pots still hold the place dear to my heart. Because transplanting still is a killer, and we've solved a certain amount of paper pot, but there's more to solve. I think it's a key to unlock a much bigger door, but just there's nobody out there really innovating with paper pot scale. And there's there's some real intricacies to the paper pot. There's some trickiness to the way it's folded and designed that
Yep.
it's not all the same. Like every seventh one is 20 mil further apart than the rest. But we essentially, and I think I've cracked the code as well with this. I just need a bit more time on it. But we want to make a automatic transplanting so that you can do it. You can program in a 750 mil distance, and every 750 mil, drop one paper pot off of that, cut it off, and drop it in at
Oh,
that
wow.
spacing. Or
That would-
500 or 400
Yeah.
or 300. So use the 50 mil paper pots, and then any spacing that you dictate, it'll just
Yeah.
electronically place it in the soil at that space. So
That would be
that's
really
actually
cool. Yeah.
that's actually where we're heading. That's where we've been heading. That's been our goal since the start. You know, but
Yeah.
they're not uniform, and that makes it really, really hard to work with. Anyway,
Yeah.
the paper pots. So essentially, what you can see there with what we've released, we've sort of made a whole circle, and I want to actually release a video. It's just time to be able to make videos because we make our own videos. You know, being a small business, you know, you
Yes.
sort of wear so many hats, and just getting time to wear the hats. And if I'm doing videos, I'm not innovating. And if I'm innovating, I'm not doing videos, or I'm not planning, because we've got
Yes.
a farm as well, you know, Mike. So it's a lot of things to do, but we want to make a full turnkey solution so that you can essentially manage your whole farm fully electric. You know, again,
Mhm.
like I don't know what the fuel prices are doing in America, but the fuel prices here are going up stupid. You know, so electric again.
Yeah.
We're off grid, so it's essentially free. And because I work in our workshop, which is at our home here, I
Yeah.
don't leave home more than once every 6 weeks, sort of thing. I leave home.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit of a hermit now, but you know, I don't go to buy fuel. So if it's all electric, it just comes out the sky, sort of thing, you know. So full turnkey solutions that you can do everything from your planting or transplanting, you know, you're cultivating, you know, weeding, harvesting, you know, lay down harvester or just walking over your beds with a thing. And then, you know, soil amendments. So we've got our compost spreader. We've got actually a new compost spreader we hope to release in the next couple of weeks, which can do your pathways. So you can put wood chip on your pathways, or you can put compost on your bed. So the same tool.
Oh, nice.
Self-loading,
Yep.
self-loading. So it just does it all in one. And this is what I talked to you. This is what I mentioned before, Mike. Sort of just going back to one of our first questions was, what you know, what are the design? Because all these tools that we're making, there's nothing to put them on. Like,
Yes.
you know, you can't put them on a BCS because it doesn't lift stuff. You know, you can't put them on a tractor because they're too heavy. You can't put them on a, you know, there's nothing really out there to take these implements. That's where the handy come back into it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's if you look at, let's say, like Venmore, or any one of these, I think you even talked about the Dingo earlier, which is basically, it's a platform to put all these little tools on.
Exactly right.
Yep. And you get that. I mean, or even like a skid steer, and you have, like, you know, 16 different implements for that. So having that base that actually is purpose built for farmers is, I mean, and it looked, when you first came out with that, I looked at the design, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And I was like, oh, that is brilliant. Well, because it just works. And so, obviously I'd love to get one here at some point, just to kind of play around with it.
Yes. So we've actually, sorry.
No, it's probably be next year before I can, you know, get around to even thinking about something like that. So but go ahead.
We've got a heap. We've already started manufacturing our production run. We've ordered all the supplies. So, you know, we don't make electric motors, and we don't make motor controls and all that sort of stuff. So we've ordered them all in. They should land by the end of the month, a lot of them, or next month. But we've started manufacturing all our steel and stuff like that. Like I said, we've got the last week of R&D, and then we're gonna start sending them. So we've got one purpose built for just doing tours around America, and we've got one purpose built for doing tours around Europe, and then we've got the same here in Australia. I would have been doing tours around Australia already, except with the coronavirus, there's a lot of lockdown restrictions and stuff like that. Yeah. So hopefully, the Lord permitting, we will have one that we can. So I don't know. Have you met Brent, our rep in America? Or
yes. Yes. I know Brett. Yeah, he's out of Texas, correct?
Yeah, really nice guy. He's going to try and get around. So if your farm's in the line of attack, by all means, you might be able to drop in and have a couple of goes.
Well, we could do a workshop too, that kind of thing, which would be cool. I could probably even get Johnny's involved too, to bring some of their stuff out. So we could do like a tool day and show everything.
Yeah. So just getting back to that platform thing, Mike. So like you said, the platform was cool. And the only thing different from a dingo, I suppose, is obviously it's electric and it's missing the guts. But as I showed you, I tagged you on that post on Facebook the other day with the I call it the overhead frame. That's what, thing. But basically, you make it a mid-mount tractor as opposed to just being a front-end loader, and it's such a, I suppose, simple addition to give it such a different purpose, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. That solves. And the beautiful thing is, so one of the big things, we're on an 8-acre site, and we're already knowing that we are going to max out every square inch. And so that means that every single drive path and every single walking path is wasted space. So we're like, okay, how do we take a drive path and go from 20 feet, which takes our current space, to 10 feet or even 5 feet or 6 feet? And something like this would absolutely do this because it turns on a dime.
Yes.
You pick up the front, you turn around, you drop it back down, and away you go.
Exactly. It's really good. Yeah. I do it here because we've got really tight farming spaces. Like, I'm not sure what they are in feet, but that's exactly because we'll go back over the same bed or the one right beside it. You couldn't turn it with like an overhead track. It'd be like a 28-point turn. Yeah.
So you'll probably have like 2 meters or 3 meter heads.
We got 3 meter walkways.
Yeah. So that's about like 9 feet or something like that. So
but this machine, like with the overhead frame on the front, it's 1.8 meters. Then the handy's 1.8 meters. So it's literally longer than our bed is. But because you can just flick that front up and turn on a dime, you go straight back down again. Yeah. And I know that's a big thing with people buying the BCSs, exactly for that reason, because you can turn them on a dime. So we've sort of nailed that one at the same time. There's, as we've talked earlier, there's just so many problems with the BCS. So I think this goes to that next level. Interested to see that. Yeah, when you get it to the US, definitely have Brett reach out. We'll make something happen. So sure.
All right. Well, anything else? I know we got to wrap this up here. Anything else you wanted to leave our listeners with before you go?
Yeah, so there's a couple of cool things coming. There's limited spaces left of availability this year. So we've got, I think, a couple of handies left to sell, and they will start shipping probably January. We'll ship them out of here. Otherwise, we'll make a new, obviously once we finish this batch, we'll start making the next batch. But that'll be another 6 months from January. So they'll get them sort of mid next year if they want. So there's a couple of spaces left there. There's some cool tools coming up soon. We've got a whole series of tools we're still got in the development page for the handy. We won't get them on this year's production run. Like, we've pretty well stretched ourselves to get what we have, but we want to do a compost turner for sure. So you can do your whole on-farm full rotation of, I suppose, your carbon cycle. We've got a greens harvester, sickle mower. We want to go into like vineyard dressing, like possibly grape harvester and stuff like that, because you got the overhead. Specialized stuff like that's probably a bit further down the track. Get into construction a bit more, like concrete mixer. That's something massive for us, because we're around the farm, we're always putting structures in and stuff. I may even, if I can secure a good supplier for the concrete bowls, it's not a really hard design, so I might even sneak it in if I get a chance. No promises there, but cool. Some cool things there. And then by the time this audio releases, Mikey, we should have our Cyber Clydesdale released. So it's a 2-wheel tractor which takes all the implements off the handy.
Okay.
Nice. And I know we spoke a minute ago about the BCS and its inefficiencies and stuff.
Yeah.
Direct drive. We've taken all the technology we've learned off the handy. And we direct drive to the wheels straight through gearbox, electronic control, electronic PDO. So all the, the power harrow, that's sort of what's held us up a lot with just finishing it off, was just, we're making it so that the same tools can go on both machines. So there's no, we can double dip essentially, we can have twice as much products and it can be valid for more different guys' context, So yeah, hopefully that that releases in the next week or two before this order releases, and I think it's going to be exciting for a lot of guys to see. Again, if they can't afford maybe the handy because it's a bit more expensive, this is going to be sort of half the price, and and it's going to have a lot more, clearance and capacity due to that electric drive than possibly other tools on the market.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Curly. Appreciate it. Been fascinating watching your journey over the last couple of years. Just, the first thing came out and then the next thing came out. And now to see this kind of, I figured we had to get you on. We've been meaning to get you on, and it's just been one of those journeys. So
yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah,
really appreciate the opportunity, Mike. And look forward to talking more in the future.
All right. Thanks again for coming on.
Talk to you later, Mike.
Yeah, bye.
Hey, Thriving Farmers, have you checked us out on YouTube lately? We have a bunch of new content there, including a few rants by me. I want to tell you, you don't want to miss them. I actually go rant about, some of the problems I see in our space and some of the challenges I see farmers facing. So go check that out. We've got instructional videos over there as well. Talk about setting up our new farm here in Ohio and all the steps we're going to do that, as well as just tutorials and tips on best practices for all sorts of things on the farm. So go ahead, check over at Growing Farmers on YouTube and see the new content we put together for you. So there you have it, another episode in the books. So I'd love if you would hop on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. Those mean everything to us. We love to hear what you're thinking. If you have a podcast guest that you can recommend, please pop on over to the Thriving Farmer Podcast website and leave us a review. That's thrivingfarmerpodcast.com.